Hi, Thumos guys. Welcome back. Hope you're having a blessed day. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit differently. We're going to be going into a few of the biblical stories, a few of my favorite biblical stories, and we're going to use those as analogies, metaphors for living the thumotic life. Now we're going to visit those in a second. We're going to talk about sacrifice and how that can bring meaning to your life, and how essential that is for a man. But first, we have to actually take a look at the word thumos, because the way that I use this word is spiritedness, and it is a feeling, fire in the belly energy, high thumos. Now, I've talked to the group recently in our Thumotic Mondays, and I really just asked the question. I said, is anyone here low thumos? Does anyone here feel low energy or perhaps even despair? And, a few reluctantly raised their hands and said, yeah, I'm having a rough time. I'm feeling a lack of creativity. I'm feeling sort of stuck in a rut. And I completely relate to that. By all means, you guys see me sometimes, I may seem high energy, some other days I'm low energy. I have my own struggles, I have my own ways of dealing with them, and I have days where I'm stuck in my head, and there's anxiety, and it's not always sun and roses. So I completely relate to that. And I want to sort of figure out what is the cause. And to do that, let's actually take a deeper look at the word thumos. If you look up the word thumos, the definition, you see spiritedness. But as you continue to read, you sort of stumble upon this part that says the desire for recognition. The desire for recognition. Now, a lot of people will hear this, and it kind of just goes in and out. A lot of people associate it just with breath, blood, fire, spiritedness, gameness, this doggedness for life. But it's this desire for recognition that we're going to hone in today and talk about, and which I think is essential, a part of a man's life. And without the desire for recognition, without the courage that it takes to be seen, then you will experience what I believe is this low thumos, this lacking of energy in your life, and possibly despair. And what happens when you're in despair is you become desperate. Despair. You become desperate to find ways to cope with the despair in your life, this void, perhaps nihilism that you may be experiencing. And so this word, thumos, this desire for recognition, what we can turn to, what are some things that we seem to cope with when we fall into despair? Okay? Well, we seem to sort of withdraw. We go inward. A few things I'm just going to point out. These things are not bad per se, but it seems to be a way that men withdraw in the modern age. You could look at porn as one of the symptoms of despair, a way to cope. Porn in itself is refusing to look at you. It refuses to acknowledge you. The only one that you recognize is yourself after you turn the phone off or the screen. You see your image. The woman in the porn refuse to look at you. They can't see you, but you can see them. And so there is no recognition. There's no eye that acknowledges you. When you watch television, you'll notice that there's nothing there to see you. There's nothing there to acknowledge you as you are. The television tells your vision what it is that it's going to see. There's no recognition. When you play video games, there is no recognition. And if there is, then it's the character within a game, that avatar, that customized character that you've built, that is recognized. It's not you yourself. You could be recognized. You're playing a game of Call of Duty with the boys. You get that, you make it out of the gulag, and, they're celebrating you. That quickly fades. It's how you're doing in the game. It's not recognizing you for your talents, for yourself in real life. And so there's this constant going in. It seems when a person falls into despair, depression, there's a going inward to a dark place. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is Jonah. Story of Jonah. And quickly, God says, Jonah, I need you to go to Nineveh. I need you to go, and I need you to spread the word. And Jonah's like, listen, I don't know if I can do this. I cannot do this. for whatever reason, Jonah is too afraid and feels that it's way above him to go to Nineveh. He's fearful of it. So what does he do? He actually runs from the decision. He begins to run from, not the decision, but he runs from the command that he needs to go to this destination. So he gets on a boat and he sets out on the sea. And there's a whole crew. Now what ends up happening is a giant storm comes, starts shaking the boat. The waves are so high, it's crashing. The boat's being jolted around. Lightning, thunder. Jonah knows that this is God. This is his punishment for not going to Nineveh. And so he says to the ship crew, he's like, you guys got to throw me over. It's the only way to stop this. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone thinks they're going to die. He's like, you got to throw me over. And then the sea will calm down. So they take Jonah and they throw him over. Now, this part of the story often gets passed over, just like then he goes to the whale. But here I like to think about, this is the time in your life when you're dealing with a choice that you're afraid of. Think about the anxiety that you have inside of your mind when there's a difficult decision, when you feel the call, but you're battling answering the call. There's this anxiety and war within yourself. There's a storm within your mind, and all of your cognitive functions, all of the energies are frantic. They're going crazy. It's complete chaos. It's like Jonah on that boat. It's like all the men freaking out. The whole system is filled with cortisol and stress. I like to imagine that as an analogy for him on the boat, and the only way he knew is to get thrown overboard. And what happens then? Shortly after he's thrown overboard, a giant fish comes and swallows him up. This is the point of retreat. This is the point in the story where Jonah, I imagine, was in deep despair. Because think about how dark the belly of a whale would be. And he was in there for, I believe, 3 days. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. He was in there for 3 days, complete pitch dark, hasn't eaten. Imagine the despair. Imagine how you would feel at a moment of this darkness. No hope left. This is the point of, this is it. I'm going to die here in the belly of a whale. And he cries out. He says, Lord, I'll go. I'll go. Just give me another chance. Give me another chance. The story ends, the fish, the whale, spits him out onto the shore, and then he packs up and he heads to Nineveh. That belly of a whale in my life represents despair. And it represents a time in my life that, things, they didn't look up. They didn't look up, or there was some decision that I needed to do. There was some action I needed to take that I wasn't taking, that I refused to do, and all I could do from there was retreat, because I didn't have the courage, I didn't have the fierceness to do what I was called to do. And so we retreat, we start to cope, and we find various ways to cope. And this feeling of despair, it's an undertow, it's a current, it's something you feel inside of you, it kind of nags at you. It's like the despair is, you're not living up to all that you could be. You're not living up to the potential of what you could possibly be. And so many of us find ourselves here. And so a quick side note before we go on is that in order to have this desire for recognition, to actually be recognized, that takes courage. It takes a lot of courage to step up, to go and seek out that job application, to sign up for classes, to learn a skill, to have an apprenticeship. It takes a lot of courage to move out for the first time. To even simple things like looking up an apartment that you can possibly move into, to actually going and calling up the landlord and putting the first ones down. It takes courage to go to the interview. There's a lot of fear there. It's much easier to stay in a place of inaction where you don't have it. And so as a man, you'll notice that your entire life, you have moments, days that call upon you to have immense courage to step out into the world and to be recognized, to be seen. Even when it comes to something as simple as being sexual with a woman. I mean, you have to get butt ass naked and be seen by another conscious being, whether you like how you look or not, and you are being seen. Porn doesn't give you that. Porn doesn't have to. Porn doesn't call you to make that sacrifice. The actors in a movie have willingly made the sacrifice for you to be seen, or for them to be seen. You don't have to be seen. And so there's this understanding that we have to have courage. Many people say you have to have confidence. It's the key to living your life. Now, my thought is that it's very, very difficult for many of us to have immense courage and confidence if we have nothing to really tether that to. If we're not plugged into something, then we're like a computer that is, you could do anything on a computer and talk to people around the world, but until you plug that thing in, it's useless. And so many of us try to motivate ourselves and have courage just from our own mind. Now, some people can do this. Some people are, just psychos. Some people are out of the dang loop. They're loopy. In my mind, in order to have consistent courage, I have to have an overarching sense and belief in something. And I'll tell you straight that I do. I believe in God. And I believe that God is so far outside of anything that my little puny peon brain can even conceptualize. I don't have an iota of a clue of what God is. But when I look out into the night sky, or when I see the vastness of the world, and I see, the intelligence in another human being, or I just see life and see my little cats, little Santo over here, there's an inexplainable feeling that there is something greater than just me. Okay? And if I refuse to even acknowledge that, I have a tendency to sort of fall into that, you could say nihilism, which is there is nothing. And it is through this faith or this belief in something that gives my life juice. And I think that we all get our juice from somewhere. We all get our electricity or our energy from something. Some of us get it from drugs. Some of us get it from, doing HIIT cardio or taking a cold shower. And what I'm saying is, you'll realize that your juice can run out. And so you want to make sure that you're tethered and you're plugged into something that provides your life with a lot of juice, with a lot of courage, with a lot of sense of I have the ability to do this. And I will not fail. And because what is failure? Failure is part of life. I mean, when you are tied to something bigger, man, you stop fearing death. You stop fearing like being gone from this place. I think Mark Twain said, he's like, listen, I was dead for millions and billions of years, and I was just fine. I'm sure when I return to that, I'll be just fine also. And so there's this knowing. I know that I'm part of something greater, and that it's okay. It's okay. And I'm powerful because of that. I'm powerful and I'm capable because of that. Because that thing is in me. And I am of that thing. And so instead of trying to find all these little gods and chasing these little phantoms, I'm tethered to something that provides my life with a lot of juice and a lot of knowing. And so I think that you should, and it's not like I read my Bible every day or I say prayers every day. No, but there's a undeniable knowing within me that this experience is meant to happen, and that I'm a part of this thing, and that I have the ability, and I can take the energy and the life I have and do whatever is necessary. There's not really any fear there. I can be made a fool, I can be cast out, I can be hated, but at the end of the day, that none of that matters, And so a lot of people can look at this and get depressed and be like, well, why would you take any action? Well, the thing is that, well, I want to live a good life. It doesn't stop you from wanting to experience the joys of life. And life can be very joyful. And it's very simple, honestly. You don't need much to live a good life. But it's through that pursuit. And so now we enter, after you realize that you probably want to be tied to something that provides your life with a lot of juice, a lot of energy. Now we go into this point of sacrifice. And how do we live our life from here on? We're tied to something bigger. Now we go into the point of sacrifice. Now, if you look at, we're going to take the biblical stories here. Sacrifice in the Bible there's numerous sacrifices, okay? If you look at any tribes from the past, it's always a sacrifice. There's always a sacrificial offering, this giving of oneself that's required to go to the next level, to upgrade. Nietzsche said that the snake that cannot shed its skin must die. It will die. If you're unable to leave something, to give something, and let me make this very clear. I'm not talking about giving up something for like Lent. I'm not saying to give up your bad habits. That's not what I'm talking about here. I don't want you to be confused with it. This is an actual action thing. You actually have to give something of yourself, energy, time, cognitive energy, something you have to be giving. That is the sacrifice I'm talking here. It's not not doing something for a period of time, such as no November or sober October. That's not what we're talking about here. So we come to this story in the Bible of Cain and Abel, which is one of my favorites too. It's the first time in the Bible that you see sacrifice. And you have this story of Cain and Abel, both brothers, that make an offering to God. And Abel is giving God, I believe he gave him some fat, like from an animal, right? And his brother's like, you're going to give God fat? What are you, an idiot? But Abel gives it. He gives it because that's his sacrifice. And he gives it joyfully to God. Take my offering, please accept this, Lord. And then Cain, on the other hand, takes this like fruit, this nice, beautiful fruit, kind of expensive, whatever, and he gives it up. God doesn't accept his offering, but God accepts Abel's. Cain is furious and ends up taking his brother out to the wheat field and kills him right there. He's furious with God that he did not accept his offering. And the story, it continues. I kind of forget how it ends, but I think God's pretty upset with Cain. He's like, why'd you kill Abel? He gave me an offering from his heart. You gave it out of pride, out of it was imperfect, it was tainted. You gave it for a different reason than just to give it, authentically to give this sacrifice. And I love this story because I like to look at, you have Cain, you have Abel. And so it is required of you as a man to give what you are able and not what you can't. Cain can't. Not what you can. That's how I remember that. Give what you are able and not what you can't. Because many people, they wait for perfection. They're paralyzed until they get to a certain point, until I have it mastered, until I'm perfect, until I have this in place, until this. They don't give authentically now. Abel gave what he could, and God accepted it. And that's just the point, man. Is like when you begin to give yourself to the world, this desire to be recognized, and not for a sort of egotistical thing, but the desire to put a sacrifice out into the world of yourself. Sometimes the gods show up and they smile and they bless you, and miracles happen. Miracles happen, and sometimes the people that are like Cain, that were waiting and they gave it for the wrong reasons, or they put it out there for the wrong reasons, out of greed and just to get back and to defile the haters. Sometimes they become those very people themselves. And they're unhappy with the people that they find success because they just tried, because they gave the sacrifice authentically. And so you see this story. You see also in the story of Abraham and his son. I mean, God tells him, I need you to go and sacrifice your only son. So he takes his boy, reluctantly says, okay, all right, I'll do whatever you tell me, God. And he goes and he puts him on the altar and he's about to cut his throat and let his blood run. And then God, I believe God sends in a little goat in place of Abraham's son. And he allows that to be the sacrifice, to see if Abraham would give. To see this sacrificial story, to see if he would give what he had, and he would. And then he sent something else in place. And that's the thing, man. You know, this is what I want to tell you guys. If you are in despair, if you are low energy and not creative, not excited, maybe you try going on an adventure and you get some good ideas, and now you have something to give, right? You fill up yourself. You're feeling good. You just kind of see the vastness of the world. Your cup feels full, and you kind of empty that. But if you're in despair, you have to stop waiting. You have to stop thinking, I'll do this. You have to stop putting all these circumstances around you or these making promises. When this happens, then I'll do this. Something is required of you now. That is a sacrifice that you have to make of yourself. Sometimes that is stepping in front of a camera. Sometimes it's just writing. Sometimes it's turning in the job application. Sometimes it's taking one of your ideas that you had, even though maybe your friends and family tell you it's kind of stupid, and you just try that thing. Maybe it's pulling up your bootstraps, and going to work. Maybe it's actually signing up for that course. And you keep putting it off, and you see how you feel your time. You see how you spend the time in the belly of a whale, and you're not seeing the light of day because you're stuck in that dark place. You're unwilling to give a sacrifice. You're unwilling to answer the call. And that's what's required. Just like Jonah in the belly of a whale, he said, all right, I'll go to Nineveh. Sometimes you have to be willing to answer the call for your life to really begin, for the miracles to really happen, right? Sometimes you just open the wings. You're free falling, you just open the wings, and that's how the bird glides. Because you don't know all of the randomness that's going on. You have no way of knowing what mentors will show up, what friends will come to your aid, what blessings will come your way. You have no way of knowing until you answer the call, until you go forth, even in your imperfect state, and you take that action, and you make that sacrifice, you give the gift. And that's what I'm telling you guys. As men, this is part of living the high Thumos lifestyle, is the spiritedness, the desire for recognition, the desire to go forth and give your gift, all right? To give that sacrifice to the world. And you keep finding, the thing is, the creativity shows up, man, because once you flick the first domino, the other dominoes start falling. And the path is made clear. Like Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way becomes the way. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What you have in your way right now, that obstacle, needs you to attack it with fierceness and with energy. And you need to tip that over. You need to go through it. And then the road in front of you, you'll see where you need to go. Okay? You'll see where you need to go. And so the way that you get out of the despair, you fight despair with fierceness. Okay? You fight despair with fierceness, with energy, with action. And I highly recommend that you take a look at where you're getting your juice from. Where are you plugged into? Where are you getting energy? Because that source, it can either run out, unlike, if your main source is a cup of coffee, well, let me tell you that thing, for many of you, probably metabolizes really quick. Or it's that pre-workout, and then you work out, you're done for the day. Where are you getting your juice? Where are you getting this courage? If you think about going into the gym, it's a hell of a lot easier to load the bar up and do the squats if you feel like a warrior training for battle. If you feel like you have purpose here on earth. That's way better than just going to the gym because I need to lose a few pounds and I know it's healthy for me. That's way better. And so the war we fight is, like it said in Fight Club, it's a spiritual war. We don't really have a war that we're preparing for. But let me tell you guys, the war is our lives. It's the fight of our life. And so make sure that you're tied to something bigger and you're plugged in, okay? And that's really all. I hope you guys enjoyed this message. By the way, I was inspired. I kind of did a rough talk of this in our Thumotic Mondays for the High Thumos Discord. If you guys would like to join that and join the group of men, come hang out with us. I would love to see you in there, all right? There's a link down below. And we're also writing a book. So if you want to participate in writing the High Thumos Handbook, anyone that writes a page, I'm going to put it in there, okay? And we're going to try to make this thing into an awesome book, High Thumos Handbook, that would help young men of all ages on their journey to just have that spirit and that life force, all right? So if you enjoyed this, let me know, all right? Let me know what you think, if you have any ideas, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. Peace.